It is Friday, so don't forget the Sabbath. And in this video, I'm going to share some of the ways that I prepare for the Sabbath and the reasoning behind it, and why, for me, the Sabbath is a beautiful holy day, which blesses me abundantly, and I want to share in that. So, a lot of people have been asking, how do I prepare for the Sabbath? And on this walk, I'm going to do that. All right, let's get started. So, preparation day for me actually rests in that fourth commandment. And I'm going to post an excerpt from Deuteronomy and the other one from, because this is where the fourth commandment talks about 6 days you shall labor, but the seventh day is the seventh day, that is the Sabbath day of the Lord, that we should keep holy. And we are not to do any labor. And I think it's Deuteronomy that goes on to says, like, your son or your daughter and your maidservant and your cattle, and it's a little bit more specific. But I'll put that up on the screen. So what does that look like for me when it comes to preparing for that day? It means, number one, putting away all worldly pursuits and preparing for that day so that I don't have to do things that are unnecessary and are part of my daily routine. That's getting all my housework in order, all my laundry done, cleaning the house, getting the shopping done, paying whatever bills that needs to be paid. That's my preparation. Now, other people, they may be working. Like if you work during the week, you may find yourself having to prepare a couple days ahead of time, maybe after work, with the housekeeping or cutting the grass or getting the garage cleaned out or whatever. Just finishing up the week so that there is a complete disconnect, really, from those daily worldly things, because it really is a day to rest in the Lord. And that doesn't mean just lay around and be lazy. No. It's about reconnecting with the Lord and that friendship with God and restoration and the beautiful blessings that come with that. So like this morning, I got up and I took all the sheets off the bed. I started a load of laundry. I cleaned the floor and I vacuumed. I washed the windows, and let's see. I think that's about it. So I didn't have a lot, but one of the things that I do want to stress that preparation should start during the beginning of the week, because one of the problems that I used to have is I would let everything pile up. And this is especially when I was working at the lifestyle centers. I would let all the work pile up because I'm working during the week. And then here comes Friday, and I only have till sundown to get everything done. So I'm scrambling. And that's not what the Lord wants us to do. He wants us to not fret over the Sabbath. He wants us to go into the Sabbath with harmony, with peace, with not being so full of anxiety and stress. So one of the things that I will tell you, that preparation should start a couple days ahead of time. It's really going to make your Sabbath much more enjoyable and more and it's really going to sanctify it, because it's a sacred day. And we always say the edges of the Sabbath should be kept holy. And when I say those are the hours going up to Friday evening. Those are the edges. Those are sacred hours that we should really have most of our stuff done. Okay, so hopefully that'll help. So that's the first thing. So real quickly, I just want to throw this out here, because Sabbath keepers, I don't care if you're an Adventist, a Baptist Sabbath keeper, if you're Hebrews roots, or any of those different faiths, those who keep the Sabbath have been lumped in with the Jews, unfortunately, when it comes to how we keep the Sabbath. The Jewish people did not recognize the Messiah, so and they didn't recognize what Jesus was trying to teach them about the Sabbath. He's the Lord of the Sabbath, and he was trying to tell them, you are legalistic. And so he would heal on the Sabbath, and they said that was work. And he would when they picked the grain, that was work. So they completely missed the boat. And Jews today are still keeping the Sabbath, but they keep it in a very, very legalistic way. So one of the things I want to point out is there is freedom in the Sabbath. It's a beautiful day. Our Lord of the Sabbath is Jesus, and he taught how to observe the Sabbath. If an ox fell in a hole, would you not take it out on that day? Of course you would. If somebody is sick, would you not go and help them, heal them? Yes, it's all, so there is freedom in the Sabbath. So I want to address some of those areas that maybe are gray, that maybe people misinterpret when it comes to the Sabbath, because I've been criticized for posting videos on the Sabbath, and that's work, that's labor. Or driving somewhere on the Sabbath and traveling. So let's address some of that. And okay, legalistic travel on the Sabbath. I've had this actually be brought up to me on my channel, that traveling is forbidden on the Sabbath. Well, let's put that into context. Unnecessary travel should be avoided. Why? Because it actually gets us too distracted with the world, obviously. Light, and we booked it for the Sabbath. That's unnecessary. Why are we traveling on the Sabbath, going to wherever we need to be going? We should be there before the Sabbath, or our travel should be appropriate and be done after the Sabbath. And remember, this is a holy day, and it needs to be sacred. Now, with that said, traveling to and from church, okay, let's not be legalistic. Let's use some common sense. We have to get to church. So many of us sometimes have to drive a little bit farther. I know when I'm retreats for the Sabbath, where there's a speaker, I may have to do some traveling early in that morning to get there. But I'm going. I'm going to church. I'm on my way to the ministry. So that's very appropriate. But unnecessary travel. So I think you understand that. But that's something that did come up, and we can be very legalistic about that. The other things is, and this is a really good question, and this goes back to how we observe the Sabbath and we keep it holy. This is a time where we want to remove the temporal. And we want to reconnect with the Lord. And one of the ways that Jesus actually reconnected with his Father, I don't know, I've maybe not used the word reconnect, but how he restored himself and his divine power was to be in the presence of nature. The Sabbath is about creation. It started in the Garden of Eden. And so all of this, on the Sabbath, is one of the things that we need to acknowledge and be out in, is nature. Because it's a celebration of creation and that rest day. The Lord, he labored for 6 days. What was he laboring for? He was creating the earth. And on the seventh day, he rested. And that became the Sabbath. So we should be spending time in nature on that day. Now, number one, God wants us, to be worshiping him. We need to be praying for him on that day. We need to be congregating in fellowship. It's very important to meet on the Sabbath and share and celebrate. The Lord loves our praises and loves our singing. So it is not a day to go off and be alone. It is not a day and I didn't know this, I had to learn this, I had to study about the Sabbath. I'd go to church, and then I'd do a little bit of fellowship, and because I love to be alone, I would get on my road bike and do 15, 20 miles, and then I would go paddle. Okay, that's self-serving. That has nothing to do with glorifying the Lord and getting away from the temporal things. And because even though I was out in nature, I was still doing my own thing. This was for me. So, and I could have used all the excuses in the world. I'm out in nature. Okay, come on. Let's stop fooling ourselves and really understand the sacredness of that day. And when the Lord worship him in the creation, in this, we really have to respect that and change the way that we spend our day. So one of the things that I started doing was spending more time in fellowship, and then also I didn't work out to work out. It's not a day for me to go for that run in the morning or lift weights or go to the gym. Again, we're leaving that behind, and I'm focusing on the Lord. So hiking with friends, awesome. Going for a hike alone and talking to the Lord and praying to the Lord and praising him and just being out and meditating on that day with him in nature is wonderful. I'm not saying you can't grab your bike or a canoe and paddle that day, but you're not doing those things for exercise. You are going out and actually spending time with the Lord. You see, the focus really needs to be changed, absolutely changed, because this is a sacred day, and it's a day that should bless you. So just kind of wrapping up, because there's so much I could talk about on this. I need to do some more videos if you want. All bitterness, all malice, envy, strife needs to be put away. Anything against your brother or brethren or family needs to be set aside. You just got to let it go. Also, we need to watch our speech on the Sabbath. I mean, we always need to watch our speech, but especially on the Sabbath, I'm sorry, we should be not talking about the temporal or worldly things. Our conversation should be heaven focus. And I've noticed even in sometimes I'll go to church, and around the potluck, the table, the conversation gets away. And I feel that now. People start talking about, worldly things that, it's good to talk about, like with the vaccines and what's going on with the churches and the leadership and, the government. And I was like, no, we need to put that away. This is not a day to talk about those things. And even some churches have been having preachers, and I remember when I was at Wildwood, they had a preacher there on the Sabbath, and I left because he was talking too much about vaccines and all this. It was prophecy, but it was conspiracy stuff, and it was just very inappropriate, and I had to leave. I'm like, doesn't anybody else, don't they see that this is not Sabbath appropriate? So, but that's between you. Have to gauge for yourself. That's the thing. God gives us an idea through his word. Delight in the Sabbath. Turn your foot. The spirit of counsel for me has really helped in studying, especially Isaiah 58 has really helped me to clarify what Sabbath looks like. Jesus, as our example, has helped me understand the Sabbath and how I should be worshiping it and how I should be spending my day. But you have to do that yourself. You too have to. I mean, I can give you all of the things that I do and some of the things that I have learned, but please take it upon yourself to search the scriptures carefully, pray about it, and the bottom line is, don't be so legalistic. The Sabbath, it was made as a beautiful covenant for God's people. And it is a time of restoration, a time of spiritual connection, of fellowship, of friendship with God. It's a complete blessing. So let go of what the world out there is thinking the Sabbath looks like, and do your own studying. All right, and you will delight in it. Trust me, you will be happy about that when you take that time to do that yourself. So that's a little bit about how I prepare for the Sabbath, some legalistic things, and there's I've got so many Sabbath stories. I really need to share it, because one of them is when I had no gas in my tank. Get gas in your tank before the Sabbath, and how the Lord supplied that gas without me having to go to the gas station. I got some really great Sabbath stories. So, you know what? I hope you have a blessed Sabbath. And I hope, yeah, you'll really look into this beautiful commandment that God gave us. And it starts by remember, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. It's pretty easy. All right, God bless.